And now, backed by popular listener demand,
voices blending, melodies ascending, harmony in the air. Our songs are never ending. In the barbershop we create magic. Brad and John show, yeah, it's pure classic. No instruments needed, just our vocal range. Notes flying high, it's our musical exchange. Tracy's station may try, but they can't compete. Our barbershop style, it can't be beat. Oh, the harmony of voices, so sweet. In the barbershop of life, our tunes will repeat. No need for instruments, no need for a band. Just the Brad and John show, the finest in the land.
John, I ask you, who is responsive to listener demands? Tell us who's responsive.
Brad Hildebrand is.
That's
Brad
right.
Hildebrand is. That's 100% for certain.
And John said to me after the show, go ahead, John. We're not, you don't like, you and I, you normally don't talk about stuff off air, but this time we will. Because John said to me after the show yesterday, tell me what you said.
I said that there are folks who really enjoy the barbershop theme and also enjoy our jingle. The main theme song, Brad, should begin every A block. And in fact, I spoke with someone yesterday who said the exact same thing.
Really?
But that was after you and I talked off the air yesterday.
So we tried to clean up the show a little bit, and I put in some very brief intros, and we didn't do, matter of fact, just a real quick intro on all three segments. So you're saying from now on we should start the A show off as, what do you call it, with the Dua Lipa?
With the BJ show anthem, Brad, the patriotic anthem. I think folks really like it, or I know folks really like it.
And then, of course, you know what that means if we're going back to the Friday stuff. You know what that means, John?
What is it? Oh, I know what it means.
It means it's polka time.
Time for the John Combest Top 3.
And those Bavarian singers we hired can't necessarily say John Combest the way we normally say it, but they say, what is it, John Combest? Is that how is the syllable, is the accent on the wrong syllable? Is that what it is?
With a last name like Combest, I've heard much worse, Brad.
That is John Combest, Combest. Every single day he puts together a list of all these things. Matter of fact, it was funny. I was showing somebody yesterday about what you do, and this person looked at it, and I showed this person. I said, look at what he did in one day. I showed it yesterday. She goes, wow. How long does it take him to do that? I go, hours. He spends hours on this every day. He's done this for 23. I was going to say 32. No, I got the numbers backwards. Dyslexic. Brad, the verbal dyslexic. 23 years he's done this plus, and every morning we start off with what we think are the top three. We start off with this guy right here. Oh, hold on a minute. I hit the wrong button again. We start off with this guy right here.
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what does he do?
Now on with the countdown.
He counts them down, and we start off with?
In third place,
we have three feel-good stories today, Brad. And the first one, story number 3, is specifically for you because it's one of your favorite topics. Not only is it your favorite geographic topic, but it's one of your favorite policy issues, which is the government moving at lightning speed. And yesterday, Brad, was the first day that workers from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers have begun installing signs, warning signs around Coldwater Creek. You say, John, you and Brad were talking about this months ago. Weren't they going to start months ago? Yes. But yesterday, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers began putting signs up that remind folks that when you're near Coldwater Creek, the site of allegedly radioactive waste, don't go around disturbing the soil. Don't gank a little topsoil for your backyard garden. No, leave the soil undisturbed. This story, by the way, Brad, is brought to us by Zachary Linares of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Brad, aren't you happy that the government has moved so quickly to put these warning signs up?
John, once again, you said it before. Didn't we have this story like 3 months ago?
We did, and I can't believe that the government didn't move quickly to put these signs up, Brad. I'm thinking maybe, it was a little cold. Maybe it was a little rainy. I don't know. I mean, I think you should probably put a sunshine request in and ask them what the delay was and see how quick your response is, Brad.
Okay, John, let me give you two examples. The government comes out and says they're going to put these warning signs on the banks of Coldwater Creek up in NoCo. And 3 months ago, they said they're going to do it, and now they do it. Okay, that's public sector. Private sector, I get on the phone and I call up in one of numerous sign companies in the St. Louis area, and I said, okay, how much for 100 signs? And we will give you a map of each place, exactly where they're supposed to be placed. How long would it take you to make those signs? And give us a price and tell us how quick you can do it. And I guarantee you, I could probably get it done, in a week?
Yeah, not even that.
You know
not even that long. Of course, but that's the private sector, Brad.
Right. You call up Joe Sign Dude, and he goes out there with his post hole thing or his T-post thing, and bangs it into the ground, puts the sign up there with his Milwaukee impact, and walks away and go, okay, next one, and bang, they go. And once again, in a week, it's done. God, this drives me
nuts. What I think you should do, Brad, is I think you should go, and apparently the locations where these were put up, according to the Post-Dispatch photos, were right behind the Hazelwood Civic Center. So if it's the one I'm thinking of, it's right there. It's like like around Graham Road, like north of 270, if I'm thinking of the correct one. And so, Brad, maybe next time you're around there, you can just hop out and then, take a couple pictures then maybe get me a little sample of some radioactive soil. I don't know. It might be kind of a fun keepsake. Get a few of them so I could pass them down to my generations. You know what I mean?
Okay, hold on a minute. I thought the Hazelwood Civic Center was up there off of Shackleford. Where do you say? You say this is the Hazelwood Civic Center?
Yeah, it's Hazelwood Civic Center East.
Oh, okay. There must be two of them then, because there used to be one that had a nice like gym, and the reason I know that is because I almost had my wedding reception there, but that's a whole nother story. But that was a long time ago. But God, this is so weird. And by the way,
so maybe, Brad, when we do, how almost every morning show has like their host like hosting wacky stuff and making wacky faces and stuff. Right. Maybe our profile pic for 2025 should be we should go out to a radiation sign and have someone take our picture. And be like, because the subtext there is like, this is kind of why these guys are the way they are.
Well, I've got a story that came from the U.S. Senate yesterday. I've got statistics that when I heard this, I didn't believe it. I actually heard it on another radio station. I went back to the office and I Googled this, and I came up with the Senate report, and I don't know if you're going to is this going to steal any of your thunder, or should we pick this up in B-Block?
Absolutely not. No, we're done with everything on Senate reports.
Okay, so I won't steal your thunder. So we'll pick it up in B-Block. I'm going to give you a statistic that is just going to blow you away. And once again, I heard another radio station. I thought to myself, that can't be true, and it turns out it is true. And once again, let me just preface this by saying, I'm going to tease this. Our government not at work. I'll just leave it at that. Okay,
I love it, Pat.
Time for
up a notch to number 2.
Well, we might have another constitutional amendment to vote on in 2026. No, we're not talking about abortion at the moment, Brad. We're talking about eliminating the state income tax. KY3 down in Springfield sat down with a Republican state representative named Bishop Davidson. He's from Republic, which is like a little bit, I think it's a little bit southwest or a little bit west of Springfield. Anyway, Bishop Davidson is sponsoring the bill to eliminate Missouri state income tax and put that in the Missouri Constitution. So if it passes and it's signed by Governor Mike Kehoe, voters in 2026 could vote to eliminate the state income tax, put it in the state constitution. Now you say, John, people have probably talked about this before, right? Of course they have. But eliminating the state income tax has been a priority of Governor Mike Kehoe. And in some of the pre-session policy previews that we've seen, a number of Missouri reporters have pointed out that Kehoe plans to make this an emphasis when it comes to policy in his first couple years. So, Brad, we might be able to eliminate Missouri state income tax.
And Bill Eigel is a proponent of this as well, isn't he? He's one of the big guys behind getting rid of income tax as well, too. I know he's against the personal property tax.
Yeah, I think if it's against taxes, I think Bill Eigel is probably in that camp, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's funny. I saw some guy yesterday on Facebook showing that he just wrote a check to I can't remember what county it was. It was one of the collar counties, Franklin County, Warren County, something like that. He just wrote a check to the county, and he says, "I just paid $2,500 to have my car for another year, which I own outright, in addition to paying for the license plates and goes through the whole thing. The tax I pay on the tires, the tax I pay whenever I get anything repaired, the tax I pay on the gasoline." It's like, and he ended up with, "Am I really owning my car? Or am I just renting it from the government?" You know what I'm saying? It's sort of interesting.
Yeah, it's a great time of year to have the conversation because I just paid my personal property tax, and why you're paying tax on something that you already paid tax on?
Right, you pay.
It's confounding, Brad. But so we might get a chance to vote on this. And while we're talking about constitutional amendments, I'll point out real quick that the election results from November were just certified, and it turns out that the sports betting amendment passed by 0.05%, Brad.
Which was how many votes? Like a couple hundred?
I'm pulling it up right now. I should have anticipated that question from you, Brad. It was within 400, I believe.
Wow.
I don't have it in front of me right now.
Wow. And that's...
Actually, here, I do have it in front of me right now. It is within... No, actually, it looks like the number widened just a bit, and it ended up being, if this number is correct, it's roughly 3,000.
But still...
Go ahead.
But still, out of how many votes total? It was millions, wasn't it?
Yeah, out of 2.95 million.
God, almost
so again,
3 million.
It's within it passed with 50.05% of the vote.
Is that crazy or what?
The great Brooke Foster, the spokeswoman for the No campaign, F this backward state.
Is she from Missouri? Is she a Missouriite, or
No, she moved here.
She moved here. Okay,
she's not a Missourian.
Okay.
I mean, she lives here, so let's give her credit. She chooses to live here. Yeah,
right.
But F this backward state, right?
She seemed like such a nice, easygoing person. It's sort of interesting to hear her say F something. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it doesn't mean because someone's a nice, easygoing person doesn't mean that they can hold strong opinions about Missouri voters, right?
Yeah.
I think I would defend Brooke there. Like, if you're a progressive, you have every right to say F this backward state.
Okay. It's the show me state, right? Okay. Last but not least.
The number one.
Brad, we've had a little bit of fun with this, and you might even touch on it in B Block with the concept of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Now, what you and I have mentioned on here is that Doge is actually an old internet meme, and it refers to Dogecoin,
right,
which was kind of mocking cryptocurrency. Probably had its height of popularity around 2020, 2021, somewhere in that area. So a guy from the Huffington Post, the progressive Huffington Post, decided that he was going to go out and he was going to ask a bunch of Republicans if they even knew what Doge was. This guy's name is Arthur Delaney. And he asked a bunch of Republicans, and one Missourian had the best quote of all. So this gentleman went around to some of the folks, and some of them knew what. One of the guys was way up on Doge culture, knew everything about it. This gentleman asked Eric Schmidt, and Eric Schmidt said he had seen the meme before and laughed. And he said, "I've got a dog myself. I'm a big fan of the canines." But the best quote, Brad, came from U.S. Representative Jason Smith from Southeast Missouri. And this gentleman asked Jason Smith, "Well, you're up on really what Doge means, right?" And Jason Smith told the HuffPo he wasn't familiar with the meme. Here's Jason Smith. He says, "I haven't had time to be on social media. I've been working for the American people." Brad, maybe that's a good reminder as we go into the weekend that there are people who don't spend all their time on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or Twitter /X, whatever, and actually go out there. There's representatives that don't pay too much attention to social and just go out there and meet with real hardworking people. I don't know. I love this quote from Jason Smith. It reminds us that X and Facebook are not the real world.
No, I get what you're saying, but still, this has gotten more than just Facebook memes because, okay, I'm not an expert on this, but you know more about this than the average guy. But of course, John is much, much more than the average guy, but we'll put it that way. But didn't this start out as like a joke, and then there actually was a Doge coin? Didn't they actually turn it into like a cryptocurrency?
You're exactly right. And so there's a whole bunch of, you could go down a very deep rabbit hole on here too, but there was a period of time, especially around 2021, where celebrities were starting their own cryptocurrency.
Yes, that's
and
what
Brad,
it was.
To reference something that we talked about earlier in the week, this was often closely tied to the NFT craze,
right,
the non-fungible token craze. But yeah, so Doge was created as a joke to kind of be like, because Doge was such a popular internet picture and a meme, it was like, wouldn't it be funny if we created a crypto coin that was symbolic of how silly all this is? And Elon was associated with it. Elon went on Saturday Night Live in 2021 and did a sketch where he pointed out that Doge was essentially a hustle. He was a guest on Weekend Update at the news desk. Anyway, yes, it was a joke. And then, by the way, did you see that the Hawk-tua girl had her own cryptocurrency and did a rug pull?
You know what? And you know what? Can I give you 45 seconds on something?
Please do, yeah.
Okay, for those of you who know, there's some people going like, the Hawk-tua girl, what is that? Okay, once again, this is some guy, I don't know who he was. He's some influencer who goes out and interviews people. He's sort of like a man on the street kind of thing. And interviews these two women, and he asks them, I won't ask what he said, he asked them a somewhat suggestive comment, and she went, Hawk-tua, and I spit on it, right? Is that what?
Hawk-tua.
Right.
T-U-A-H.
Yeah, Hawk-tua, okay. This lady has become the queen of the internet. She's everywhere.
Very popular, yeah.
And the interesting thing about it is this goes back to, and it's funny because before we got into the show here, we're playing a best of, and I was talking about the fact that one of the radio consultants that I use from time to time at the NAB conference, the radio conference, which is a smaller conference, we have two of them a year. This is one in New York, and it's in September. And he sat on a panel where they brought in a bunch of internet influencers, a bunch of Instagram, and Facebook and X people who are really big in this. And they wanted them to address the fact that what's happened with quote-unquote legacy media, new media, and they were all shocked by the fact that all these influencers says, we don't need you, we don't need radio, we don't need TV, we don't need any of you guys anymore. We've got our own thing going on. And some of the people in the audience were like, oh my God, how can this be? How can this be? I've said this for a long time. And, my thing is, rather than fight it, what you and I try to do, and maybe we don't do the best job at it, but we try to embrace it. That's why we take this show. After we get off the air at 8 o'clock, I chop it up. I put it on our podcast channel, which is through the red circle. Then it automatically puts it into a YouTube video. John works on that, puts timestamps on it, cleans up my not so accurate intro, our titles and things like that. And we do other stuff like that. John tweets about it. John's got then you have like the storyboard, which is your, how do you do that thing? Is that some kind of an app you have where you do the old push letter thing that you used to see when you
I have a tiny little midget here who works on a full-size board, and I do it because I like to have a little person on a big board. But Brad, to your point, yeah, and I don't mean to cut you off at all, but I'm not one to make a virtue out of necessity. But Brad, we do this you don't spend any money marketing the station. We don't do any advertising. There's no time or effort put into promoting, via billboards or traditional media. So we do this all ourselves, and we don't need, God bless them, but we don't need a mention from the Post-Dispatch to promote our station. It's not necessary.
But see, here's my gripe. Back in the day when I was working for, Y98, whatever the station was, the thing that always used to tick us off was the TV stations would do this. Like, let's say we raised, sometimes we'd raise like 6 figures of money for a charity. And the TV station would come, they'd send a cameraman, and then at 6 o'clock at night, a local radio station was busy raising money for underprivileged. A local radio station? Okay, I get it, dude. You're not going to give our call letters because of the fact that you want us to buy advertising in your station. You know what? Screw you.
Yeah, but it's so petty, Brad. And you pointed that out before. It's so petty the way that some people choose to approach it. It's very old school.
Right.
But you know what? F them. If they don't want to talk about it, God bless them. And I know that he's your buddy, but if Mark Reardon doesn't want to acknowledge the fact that we promote his show 2 to 3 times a week, he doesn't have to.
Oh, you know,
like
Mark,
if you're that out of touch, or you're either that or you're arrogant, then I mean, God bless him, you know?
See, I don't have to worry about that because your Mark Reardon says all the time, I don't listen to any other shows. I never listen to any other radio shows.
And he says he doesn't listen to praise of himself. Remember, he told you that when you praise him, he's like, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and once again, I don't know.
Hey, good for him. Like, to each their own, you know. And did you know he said the other day, I think he said on the show that, you know, he's pushing 60.
Oh, yeah.
Good God. Like, how much longer? Can you imagine being in your 60s and doing radio, Brad, and not moving to Palm Springs or Florida?
Well, you know,
like, what kind of person in their right mind is still in radio in their 60s?
You know the story behind that. You know the story behind. You know the reason why he's still doing that. He's on his second marriage, and he had a new young woman come into his life. He had a baby when he was like 53. So
ooh, nice.
Yes, which I'm thinking to myself,
okay, you know what? His approval rating with me just kind of went up.
Well, but that's nothing near like who's the two Italian dudes who both had kids where they're both like in their 80s. You know I'm talking about the big movie stars. God, my mind's gone. I can't think.
Pacino or De Niro?
Yeah, I think didn't they both have like kids recently? And they're like in their 80s.
I don't know which is which.
Okay, we have to take a break. We're way over. It's 7:23.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?